Welcome to this edition of Sports. We're here today at the University of St. Gallen for the first edition of the Impulse Summit, and we're meeting Alexander Bente. You're the co-founder of Lead Sports, and you're also the great-grandchild of Adidas founder Adi Dassler. So a lot to talk about today, but first let's start with Lead Sports. What is it all about, and how do you look for investors for your business?
Yes, sure. So, as you mentioned, the company that we founded about 3 years ago is called Lead Sports. Why that name? It really has a reference to who my great-grandfather was. It stands for Legacy of Adi Dassler. The AD is in caps, so we always try to remember him wherever we can, and we felt like it was a good name, especially also because Lead, Don't Copy was one of his main standards that he had for himself, but also for his business. Like, he really wanted to have truly innovative people working for him. And yeah, it's basically an initiative of our family to bring his legacy back to life, so to say, because many people, almost everyone knows the company he founded and created, but very few people know who he was and what an incredibly innovative mind he had in the world of sports. And to bring that spirit back to life, so to say, we felt like it would be the perfect way to support and invest in people just like him, sports entrepreneurs in an early stage that have innovative ideas in the world of sports. And we do that among different stages, from an accelerator that is a 3-month program for the earliest entrepreneurs, so to say. Some can be even an idea stage, to like a business builder that takes care of seed companies, and then a fund that's called Advantage, that really invests in a little bit later stage companies. So that's a Series A, our Series A vehicle, so to say. And about how do we find investors? It was really for us early on as a family. We could have done this ourselves, but it was about engaging people from our network that we feel like have a passion for sports, want to be actively involved, want to work with entrepreneurs, want to help them, have an ability to help them, maybe can add value to sports tech companies in a complementary way to us. You always have to be critical of yourself, and I would say we're not the most tech-savvy family on this planet, so when it really gets into the detail of technology, it's good to have other people that can really guide you, and we have definitely one great shareholder. His name is Thomas Riedel. He built an amazing technology company himself that is in Germany, and yeah, so we have 14 other shareholders that are all passionate, all willing to work with entrepreneurs, and that's what it was really about. You want to not just invest in sports entrepreneurs, you want to create an ecosystem, a support system that really helps them take the next stage.
You said to me that sport is a niche industry comparing to other sectors. So how do you engage investors for this sector specifically? What is the challenge?
Yes, compared to other industries, it may be a niche, but it's growing very quickly, and it's something that was always, or for a long time, seen as an old school handshake kind of business, similar to the financial industry that wasn't really disrupted by tech. But that is changing through some other innovations in other areas. Mobile phones, have definitely changed the way we watch sports, for example. But also I feel like it's just also good that some of the team owners are now tech people, and they're more open with their teams, with their organizations, to open it up to innovation, and also just I think in general through the amount of capital that's been invested in the last 5 years, which is over 10 billion globally, US dollars, and that also attracts more tech talent, to this space, and we really see some good people working on exciting ideas in the world of sports, and the funding ecosystem is also evolving. So it may be a niche, obviously. That's why for us, it was important to obviously invest and create a funding ecosystem, but also really understand that niche market. So we have a plan for each and every startup, how we can help them and how we can build a support ecosystem of the right mentors, our shareholders. And yes, so that's basically our strategy. And
do you have like a target of how much you want to raise, or what is the target goals?
It really depends on every stage that we invest in, right? In the accelerator, we have a very clear and straightforward business model, so to say. So we offer 25,000 euros to the companies that attend our accelerator program. They get a 3-month program, really customized to whatever they need. And from coaching, they They all get trained on how to pitch, properly, and really whatever they need. It's really, really custom. And in return, we get 6 to 8% equity of these businesses. Then obviously at the end of the program, all of the companies try to raise their seed rounds. That's the goal, and then we try to make them investable, right, in these 3 months. And that's where we as shareholders invest selectively, but also our VCs and our business builder team really helps all of the companies that come out of the accelerator with finding the right strategic investors alongside us. So, at that stage, it really, really varies what we're looking for and how much we're trying to raise. Every business is different. But for our fund, which I'm fully focusing on it since this year, it's a little bit later, so we invest 7-digit numbers in A rounds, so between 1 to 2 million. So yes, that's our strategy.
And explain to me what kind of investors you're looking for. Do you target specific industries or people?
Yeah, so you're talking about basically all investor, which is one side of the things, because we already, I feel like, have a very, very strong investor group ourselves as shareholders, right? We have a lot of firepower, but obviously we're always looking for the right people also to engage with us. And
who are the right people to engage?
I mean, it really can be team owners, it can be corporates if they're interested, but it can also be like private individuals, family offices that believe in sports, that believe in the future of sport, how disruptive it can be, and then also obviously the potential returns. That's obviously what every investor is interested in, and I feel like with the exit market developing, with later stage funding really, really having grown over the last couple of years, this is becoming more and more interesting. And I feel like at that stage I also have to really explain why we made the decision to add a fund to our platform that focuses on Series A rounds. I mean, it was, first of all, it made sense for our platform because with that fund now we can support and invest in sports tech companies from pre-seed through growth, because the fund can also invest initially in A rounds, but then has like the capital reserves to invest in B and C rounds if we really like the development of one of our portfolio companies. But the more important reason actually was, if you look at the sports tech ecosystem, so to say, especially on the funding side, you have a so-called Series A crunch. And what does that mean? You have more and more seed stage companies that are being funded by the ecosystem. So you have, we were one of the first accelerators in Europe. You had a couple in the US already, but ever since we started, there has been an explosion almost in accelerators. So on a global scale, almost every week you feel like there's another one being announced in Qatar, in Japan. A lot of the teams are trying to do that now. And also I feel like athletes are being interested in this space, and also angel investors. So you have plenty of people that fund seed stage companies, so to say, that are willing to invest 1 to 200,000, and you have the traditional community VC investors that get involved later on. When a company really grows in the sports space, has millions of users, millions in revenues, that's when they invest. But right in between, at the Series A stage, there's a lack of sophisticated investors, specifically also in Europe and also on a global scale. You have some in the US that are doing a good job, but
how do you explain that lack in Europe?
It's really just it needs to grow. The US has already done a lot better job in having Series A investors that focus on this space. I mean, in sports needs a very specific expertise. Usually sports is at the intersection of other industries like sports and health, sports and nutrition, and each and every sector needs its specific expertise and really know-how. And that's what we've been trying to build, through our shareholder group, but also through our mentor network, that really to build a smart network that in each and every intersection can add value to companies, and also obviously when we do our due diligence that can assist us with that. So it takes planning, but you see it developing in Europe as well. And maybe just briefly one fact that's always interesting when it comes to that. So according to our numbers, about 47% of all tech companies in the US make it from seed stage to Series A, 47%. If you compare this to sports, it's only 27%. So it's really, there's a lot of good companies that fall through the cracks, so to say. And that's why we created a fund to really, focus on that stage. So a very, very important stage for sports tech entrepreneurs, obviously, because many don't manage to make
them more solid to then reach the next
stage.
stage.
Yeah, exactly. So we really focus on then the best ones we can find there and help them with a strategy that helps them, really grow and scale to the point where then the traditional VC community is more interested in their business as well and really gets interested and also starts investing. And that's basically why we focus on A rounds. And we feel like if you do it right, it's a very interesting investment proposition.
And from your business point of view, talking of growth opportunities, could Switzerland be an interesting place?
Yes, I mean it definitely can be. I think in general in Europe, if I just have my tough investor hat on, valuations are very low compared to the Silicon Valley, for example. So you find interesting ideas in Europe in general at a reasonable price, so to say, simply because just the funding ecosystem, as I said, is not as well developed here than it is in the US. So yes, I mean definitely, and I actually have seen some very interesting companies in the fan engagement space, in the data space. Data behind sports is a big thing. Performance tracking, analytics, you name it.
And the sport culture. I mean, we have so many international federations here.
Exactly. That is definitely a big advantage for Switzerland, right? Because I mean, what do startups really need to grow? I mean, they need obviously the right funding ecosystem. Many of them need the right investors. That's what we're trying to build, but hopefully more people will follow. They need talent for their companies, so that's very important. The right tech talent, for example. But we feel like because it's many people are passionate for sports, because the funding ecosystem is growing, and you have more examples for later stage funding. I feel like more and more tech expertise and more tech people are willing to join sports tech startups. But these startups also need access to the markets, right? So, and that's where with all federations that are being here, FIFA, IOC, you name it, a lot of these startups definitely can benefit in working with these federations or companies to test their products, give them access to markets. So that's definitely one good thing about Switzerland.
And coming back to Adidas history and legacy, Switzerland in a way also played a role in Adidas history with the miracle of Bern.
Correct. Yes.
Tell me more about this.
Yes, I think maybe just to take a step back even further. I mean, it's just, and I obviously wasn't a part of it. I'm way too young, but I just heard the story from my grandmother. And 100 years ago, that's when, about 100 years, a little less, when my great-grandfather had initially the idea to produce sports shoes in a small little town in Germany called Herzogenaurach. Everyone thought he was crazy. Why would you ever spend extra money on sports shoes if you can just wear your regular shoes, right? So why would you do that? That was how they were thinking back then. But he was passionate, really passionate about sports, and wanted to pursue this idea and convince his brother. And that's when they founded back then it was called Gebrüder Dassler Schuhfabrik. And actually were quite successful in that area even before the Second World War. I think one of the highlights that a lot of people may know is the 1936 Olympics, where they gave the shoes to Jesse Owens, in which he won all of his gold medals. I think it was four of them. And then the Second World War happened. It was very, very tough on any business, also theirs. And they both survived, luckily. But later on, they had a little bit, they didn't get along as well anymore afterwards. That's where they decided to, separate the business, and literally stood in front of all the employees and told them, listen, you have to make a decision now. You either come with me or with my brother, but we're not going to continue as a joint business. And that's the moment when my great-grandfather founded Adidas, his brother Puma. And yes, so that's, as I said, the rest is history. But one very interesting story when we talk about that is definitely the miracle of Bern and what happened leading up to it. I mean, you had the coach of the German national soccer team coming to Herzogenaurach. I don't remember exactly which year it was, but first he went
1954.
No, but before that, I don't know if it was 2 years before that or 4 years before that, but he went to Herzogenaurach to find a sponsor for their team. And he first went to Puma and asked him, hey, you want to sponsor us? It costs 1,000 Deutsche Mark and we'll wear all your shoes. And Rudolf Dassler back then said, no way, I will never ever pay anyone to wear my products. That has changed, obviously, right? But back then, that was what he believed in, And then the coach went from the Puma side of Herzogenaurach to the Adidas side and spoke to my great-grandfather, to Adi Dassler, and he said, I'll do it. I'll even give you 2,000 Deutsche Mark, but I want to sit next to you for every game going forward and be there for every practice. And I feel like that helped him a lot when innovating, and that's where he came up with the replaceable cleats as well. And that's part of the reason you could argue why Germany won the final in 1954 in Berlin.
It reversed the game
Bern.
for sure. So
Exactly, and that was
turning point for Adidas as well.
Exactly, and that you could say accelerated the business for Adidas for sure. So yes, and then
Startup style, but in the old times. So
exactly, definitely it has changed quite a bit. I mean, if you ask me today, would you invest in a simple shoe business? Probably not innovative enough. It has changed a lot.